together by sharing with you that our next set of speakers will dwell deep on global trade alliances, on strengthening India and the global agri-food partnerships. We are so glad to have amongst us our noted speakers. Please welcome Volker Klima, Head of Agriculture and Food Division, Ambassador of Federal Republic of Germany. Let me also welcome Mr. Juan Manuel Velasco, Councillor, Department of Agriculture, Fisheries, Food, Embassy of Spain. May I welcome Mr. Krishnan Palasana, Senior Specialist, Strategy, Innovation and Partnership, Food and Agriculture Organization. And to moderate this fantastic segment, may I present to you Mr. Gaurav Shishodia, Vice President, Food in West India, DPIIT. And let us look forward to this very engaging segment ahead of us. Gauravji, you have the tough task of building it all together in the time limit given.
Thank you. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I think before we start a session, I would like to really appreciate the previous speakers, Dr. Sonia Dahiya and Dinesh ji, because it reflects in terms of what India is actually doing in agri and food sector. It is the new inspiring India. It is the India that stands for quality and credibility in terms of what it produces. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Gaurav Shishodia and I represent Invest India, which is the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency of the Government of India. Our key mandate is facilitating investments in the country, while also working with the industry and the government to create policy initiatives that could benefit the sector. And I welcome you all to this session on global trade alliances, strengthening India global agri-food partnerships. What a privilege it is to share this platform with distinguished voices from some of the world's most important agri-food nations and institutions. As you all know that India is at a fascinating inflection point. We are already one of the leading producers of several agri-food commodities. And yet our share in terms of global agri-food trade remains disproportionate, very small as compared to our potential. And that too in terms of agri-food trade, if you look at the share of value-added food, it is only 20% of what we export. Over the next 20-25 minutes, I would like to draw upon the remarkable expertise around the table from Germany, Spain, and FAO to explore that question from multiple angles. To start with, I would like to welcome our key panelists, Mr. Volker Klima, who is the Head of Agriculture and Food Division at the Embassy of the Republic of Germany in India. Germany is one of Europe's largest agri-food importers and a key gateway to European markets. And Mr. Volker brings a critical European regulatory and trade perspective. Mr. Juan Manuel Velasco, who is the Councillor at the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Food at the Embassy of Spain in India. Spain is a global agri-food powerhouse and a significant EU trade voice. Mr. Juan brings together both bilateral and multilateral trade experience. And Mr. Krishnan Palasana, who is a Senior Specialist, Strategy, Innovation and Partnerships at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Mr. Krishnan works at the intersection of global food systems, sustainability and trade policy. To start the discussion, ladies and gentlemen, we would start with a brief setting the stage, where my one question to all the panelists is to tell their views about how's the global agri-food trade landscape evolving, and where do you see India stand in terms of competitiveness and strategic positioning. So if I may start with Mr. Klima.
Thank you very much for having me here on the dais, and a warm welcome to all dignitaries on the dais and also off the dais. I'm very happy to be here and to reflect on your questions. So what's going on in the international trade? Actually, international trade is growing, and also international trade in between India and the European Union, Germany, is also growing. Right now it's still 1% when it comes to the whole EU, but even German international agri-export food trade. So our task is to raise this percentage to 2, 3, even more percentage. But that's why we have to communicate, talk with each other, and we have to talk about food safety rules, regulations. We have to talk about traceability, application of new technology, developed here in India, but also coming from Europe, from Spain, from Germany. So I think the growing agriculture, agri-food trade needs more communication, needs more exchange, and it needs rules and regulations, new ones, but also we have to think about what are the old ones. So also to reduce bureaucracy, ease of doing business, and first of all, that's really, for me, very important, support the youngsters, the young people into agri-food business. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klima. And I pick up 3 keywords, which is food safety, traceability, and technology. Now I would turn to Mr. Velasco for his remarks.
Thank you very much for inviting me. Well, India is clearly a powerhouse in terms of production and has plenty of opportunities to exploit that in the global market. My experience after 1 year plus in India is that the agro-food industry in India has done part of the way, but I think it's high time that India keeps or adds value to its agri-food industry, because essentially maybe 1 or 2 issues. One is that it can produce more quantity with the same resources used in terms of land, in terms of inputs and so on, but they still produce much higher quantities. India was incredibly well in doing the green revolution. India can pass to the 2.0 and go to higher yields and keep more value added inside for the Indian agro industry. And in that, I am convinced that it can partner in a much more intense way with partners in Europe, in partners elsewhere, and maybe not or focusing differently with what I have seen. Maybe I am wrong, but I don't think I am. India has often value added or transformed elsewhere in the regional vicinity. I think it can benefit from transfer technology, from machinery, from some of the countries that we are here representing today, and do the transformation, keep the value added inside, and making the value chains more efficient in India.
Thank you, Mr. Velasco, and I certainly agree that, of course, although we are one of the largest producers of several agri-food commodities, still the yield per acre is much, much lower in India as compared to various other countries, and we definitely need to have those kind of international partnerships and the use of technology to increase that. Now, I would like to turn to Mr. Krishnan Palasanna to get his views on the same.
Thank you, Gaurav. Well, when we look at India, we tend to look at it as one homogeneous entity, which it is not. It's extraordinarily diverse, it's complex, and every region, every village, every society has got a different set of systems and traditions that they follow. And if you consider that sheer complexity and diversity, I think we are doing pretty well. Now imagine also that we are not just feeding as a country 1.4 or 1.45 billion people. There are also close to 400 million large cattle, close to about 350 million small cattle, which means that every day India is actually feeding close to 2.2 billion mouths, which we don't consider at all. Okay. Having said that, And with the tradition of circularity, tradition of resilience that is rooted in our culture, I think not only that India has the capacity to feed the world in the days to come, but also to demonstrate how the circularity can be embedded into the agricultural systems in the days to come. Thank you.
Thank you, and I certainly agree that circular economy is the way ahead. And you brought in a very different angle where we have to feed 2.2 billion people. Actually, nobody has thought about this. So, ladies and gentlemen, we move to the actual discussion from our esteemed panelists, where first I would like to discuss with Mr. Velasco and talk more about Spain. Spain has built globally competitive agri-food value chains, especially in processed food and value-added food. And if you look at India, still we are lagging behind. We've been exporting so many agri-food products in raw form to various countries, and where processing or value addition happens in those countries and exported to the world. So my question to Mr. Velasco is, what lessons can India adopt to strengthen value addition and branding of its agri-food sector?
Okay, so first of all, I would say that it would be pretentious to anyone to try to teach India after whole challenges that India faced and have faced successfully. Of course, everyone can do better, but we can humbly suggest cooperating and partnering on issues. What I would say is that it is very important to be interconnected. India is already, but as I mentioned in my first answer, it can do in a more efficient way by partnering, but keeping value added in its agri-food industry. I would suggest that India agro-industry think far, think global, but act local. Agro-industry cannot lose the perspective, but agro-industry has to face the reality at field level and with the ecosystem that it is inherent to it. Also, by doing those, I think that India can be, and as anyone try to stay ahead of the curve and build resilience in the process, and resilience in the three classical pillars. Economic first, because otherwise industry cannot live, farmers cannot live out of subsidies, out of the government. No, it has to be in the market, it has to live out of the market. It has to build, I suggest that it builds further the consumer, the confidence of consumer. Nowadays, unlike 2 decades or maybe 3 decades ago, information didn't flow that much. Now consumers know much better what they want and how to get it. So it is a communicating issue from industry to consumers, for agro-industry throughout the different agents, from farmers to consumers, and there is a constant race for quality. It is here where I think we can help, or we can cooperate more than help. I think we should speak equal to equal. We are not giving lessons to anyone. We are sharing our experience. We are trying to make everyone as efficient as possible. We have gone through a lot. Spain agro-industry has changed a lot since we joined the European Union in '86 until now. we have built a very efficient industry, exporting industry in the sectors you mentioned, fruit and vegetables, can industry, olive oil, wine industry. It has taken out time. It's a question of legislation. Here we can share very useful experience. I'm sure my colleague, I suppose, I'm sure he will agree on that. Regulation has helped a lot because by the consultation, by the ex-ante consultation with all stakeholders, we build a system which is palatable and efficient to everyone, and we have managed through the relevant agencies to make that legislation enforceable. It is extremely important because without that part of credibility, without an horizontal credibility message, the flow does not travel properly throughout all agents in the food chains, but also until the consumers in particular, because everyone from farmers to the last depot of the industry, we all aim at final point, which is consumers. So these credibility issues, these enforceability issues is very, very important. And I wanted to mention one further point. Excuse me. Which is, yes, it's about the nutritional value. India is far more than self-sufficient in terms of calorie intakes and but here also we ourselves in Europe, we have relatively recently only traveled through a calorie-based intake approach, through a nutritional value approach. And that even from agriculture. Agriculture has, even in Europe, until relatively recently, too much focus on the main traditional crops that started with the common agricultural policy of Europe in the 60s. We started from a post-war with a first goal of self-sufficiency, and we were too efficient. In a space of only a few years, we went through deficiency to excess. We had to dump, and I can tell dump, excess of production in the world market with not very good consequences, by the way, in particular in developing countries. And we had to introduce corrections in the policy. India, happily enough, has not managed to reach those mistakes, in part due to something that India aims at correcting, which is the yields. But when India will correct that, and it will, I'm sure it will, I would suggest that it avoids the mistake of others, including Europe, in the sense that we have to produce for the market and we have to produce efficiently. And I will just take one example. One of the most important production in India, rice. India last year, if I am right, passed from the second to the first world producer and exporter. Fantastic, very efficient, but it comes at a cost. It can, at least for some producers in some states, which is the water table. The water table has gone down from around 6-7 meters to 20 meters plus. That, in my view, jeopardize the sustainability of farmers and also with environmental consequences. So there is a balance to be found there as well, in the interest, first of all, of the sustainability of Indian farmers, but also in the agro-food industry, because at some point, consumers everywhere in this little planet will be very much aware of what is behind 1 kilogram of beef, 1 kilogram of poultry, 1 kilogram of rice, maize, or millet. And that counts not only in terms of perception. At the end of the day, the industry wants to sell, and it thinks like consumers, most in economic terms. But in terms of long-term sustainability, I think we all have a big responsibility. We have in Europe, you have in India, which is a pan-continental almost country. And let's not forget that normally, most of the time, consumers preach with heart. They want to buy organic, they want to buy ecological, they want to buy free pest, free pesticides, but when they buy with the wallet. So there is a diverging behavior there, and it is important that the industry consistently pass some messages that are more and more important for a bigger and bigger share of the population. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Velasco, for beautifully highlighting the gaps and the recommendations, the value chain of agri and food. Since at the beginning of the value chain comes agriculture and farmers. So I would turn to Mr. Volker Klima. Germany is a global leader in agri engineering and precision farming. How can India and Germany deepen collaboration to scale affordable mechanization and digital agriculture solutions for smallholder farmers in India?
Thank you very much for the question. Yes, indeed, we are pretty much working into precision farming, application of precision farming and technology. But as I said also in my first statement, the trade we are doing, the bilateral trade is still very low. And one of my main tasks also as an agriculture counselor is to bring Indian and German businesses together. So first of all, you know that Germany, we are well advanced in agriculture technology, machinery, also food processing machinery and technology, also with AI. But I think we have to exchange even further. So conferences, fairs, especially fairs, delegations. We have to bring your companies and our companies together. And the good thing is, the Indian government is already focusing on agribusiness, and also now European government and also German government. We are now focusing much more on business opportunities, business cases. And here I also would like to include the German Development Corporation. So like GIZ, we have a number of projects going on here, and they are focusing on different aspects of the whole agri-food system, Indian agri-food system. So from conventional agricultural food system and production patterns to agroecological food patterns, and also the Federal Ministry of Food and Agriculture, Rural Identity of Germany. We also fund projects. We are also heavily engaged in the AI technology and also its application on the Indian environment and conditions. And I think we have a lot of businesses we can do, but also it's not only business, it's agriculture business is more than just business. It's also social responsibility, and it's also economic or ecological responsibility. So in terms of environmental technology, climate smart technologies, and I think also here Germany has a lot to offer. And I think we all have to rethink agriculture. It's not only commodity trade, it's technology trade, it's know-how trade, and also systematic approaches and problem solution technologies. We can exchange both India and Germany. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klima. And I believe partnership is very important. And momentum in this direction has already started. There have been several visits of the Indian government, the Indian industry to both Germany and Spain. There has also been visits from the from Spain as well, where the Agri Minister from Spain was also recently in India. So I think this momentum would continue, and we would continue to create partnerships in this sector from both Germany and Spain. Now I would turn to Mr. Krishnan. Mr. Krishnan, from FAO's vantage point, how can bilateral or multilateral trade partnerships be structured to improve food security, especially for a country like India that is both a major food producer and also home to significant food insecure population?
Thank you. To start with, I would like to very quickly highlight a couple of FAO intervention in India in the recent years. The one that we are doing in Punjab, Haryana, and a couple of other states is what is called as the rice wheat systems transformation, where we are working with the state governments and farmers to help them to switch to much more sustainable initiatives. The second is the work that we did with the Spices Board of India. We were able to improve the quality of production of spices based on the international acceptable standards. And the third one, which we are currently doing, is on a project around Blue Port, where actually we are helping the government of Andhra Pradesh, in particular, working with the Ministry of Animal Husbandry and Fisheries and Dairying, to help improve those systems on aquaculture to ensure the highest levels of quality, safety, and health hygiene standards to match with the international requirements. Now, there are a couple of things that we need to keep in mind. Number one is that while the global food security is a major concern for us, because in the next 2 to 3 decades, going by which report you read, there is a need to increase the food production by anywhere between 16% to 40%. And again, going by which report you read, at the same time, the climate risk is going to impact the same food production by and bring the food production down by anywhere between 8 to 16%. So we are at a particular stage right now where we have not only to increase the food production to meet the food security, but at the same time ensure that the risks associated with producing food are actually minimized for the majority of the smallholder farmers. Sustainability is no more a niche priority. It is a minimum entry requirement for markets at this point of time. And there are 2 points that I would like to suggest on the way forward. Number one, from a mere buyer-seller relationship, I think there is a role that international institutions like FAO, bilateral institutions, etc., can play in terms of converting it into a knowledge equity relationship with the farmers. The farmers they should not just know what to do, but they also need to know why they are doing what they are doing. And with that increased understanding, increased responsibility, and with certain safety nets associated to ensure their resilience and their adaptation, I think we can go a long way. The second is the immense food waste that we are facing. In India, for example, the reports say that anywhere between 30 to 70% of food is lost in different ways. Okay, roughly approximately about 40%. Now, there can be technology inputs, there can be technology assistance in terms of converting this food waste into productive use. That itself can be a huge advantage, and because ensuring that this estimated 40% food waste or food lost between farm and the fork is no more a moral and economic imperative, it is also a business imperative for us in the days to come.
Thank you, Mr. Krishnan, for clearly highlighting what needs to be done around food waste and also the knowledge exchange partnership with farmers. I think some of the audience here can certainly benefit from the kind of work FAO has been doing in India. Ladies and gentlemen, due to paucity of time, this brings us to the end of this session. And let me try to distill what we've heard. We've heard that India's potential is not in question, but the potential needs to be backed by consistent quality, robust traceability, regulatory alignment, and sustainable practices that global markets increasingly demand as a baseline, not a bonus. We've heard that bilateral and multilateral partnerships are not just trade instruments, they are trust-building mechanisms. And trust, once earned, compounds. And perhaps most importantly, we've heard that India is not on this journey alone. Germany, Spain, FAO, and global partners are willing to work alongside with us as markets, as standard setters, as collaborators. At Invest India, our commitment is to make India not just an attractive investment destination, but a dependable,